Welcome back to our weekly podcast of Old Worlds. Again, we're going to apologize for any sounds you may hear. It's New York City and we need the windows open because it's warm.
Yes.
It's the summer.
It's summer. It's almost August.
So just to reiterate, we are...
Amanda Bressler, who plays Delia.
I'm Nirvana Diaz and I play Gretchen.
And I'm Raymond and I do a little writing.
And I'm the Unpaid Intern.
Right. So today's theme is political correctness versus political accuracy. So in the show, we're going for a political accuracy over political correctness. So, which means we're bound to offend people.
Yeah.
Because we don't like talking about things that hurt our feelings.
Right, and it kind of goes back to what we talked about last week, where it came with, we are so on a social level, so inept that we, as a society, click onto what we feel clicks with us rather than what we feel logically is correct. So being politically correct changes with every generation. And because of that, it kind of blurs the line of what is politically correct and what is politically accurate.
Yeah.
I was even suggesting earlier, it's more like political holisticness.
Yes.
It's kind of that hippy-dippy phrase where you take everything into account and kind of look at it as best you can from the outside and say, this is true, that is true. Both things are not equal. We can weigh these and decide the better.
Correct.
Like, I personally have done a lot of deep dives as a result of this show, as a result of my own just tendencies and hobbies. A lot of, like, conspiracy theories. And there's a number of presidents you can throw a lot of things at their feet and say, they shouldn't have been president for these reasons, and they're not really proven. It's a conspiracy theory. And then you show the person who is running opposite them for the presidency and say, even if we give time to all these conspiracy theories and assume them to be true, we can still decide some of these horrors are lesser than others.
Right.
Yeah.
Even within the political holistic view of
The two-party system.
the two-party system, the philosophical differences between just politics as they stand, as philosophies as they stand, you can kind of weigh them against each other and say, yes, there are flaws, but one is clearly the preferred outcome.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like, when this country really first started, we didn't just have a two-party system. Our founders started off with the Federalist Party, the Whig Party, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, the Democratic Republican Party, and so on. Like, there are so many, parties that we started with, where each party had its own, form of ideas and political accuracy and correctness. For them, that didn't work with the other parties of their time.
And even when we come to political accuracy versus political correctness, when we talk about how amazing the founding fathers were, big but, it's like not even just did they disenfranchise blacks.
Yeah.
If you could have been a white man, but if you didn't own enough land,
you couldn't vote.
You couldn't vote. And a lot of people remember when blacks and women got the vote, but very few people remember when white men who rented their apartments,
So to speak.
So to speak,
were allowed to vote.
Yeah.
like the serfs,
Right.
basically.
Yeah.
When were you given a right?
When
were
we
you
far,
given
like
a
farmers or farmers, lower class, agricultural.
Well, farmers owned
areas.
enough land, but what if you were the cowboy
parts.
who worked for the farmer? You didn't have a vote. You had no rights. And no one seems to remember the date when they got a vote. When they were given their right to vote.
Because it's so pat and easy to just simply say, white man bad kept everyone down.
Yeah.
The white man kept the white man down.
Right.
Yeah,
The yellow man kept the yellow man down. The brown man kept the brown man down.
Yeah.
And
We
but
were
that's
just
not the
all
way-
kind of foul to each other.
That's not the
Yeah.
way it's given. It's never even explained that way.
Yeah.
No one even acknowledges it from that standpoint. Like, I was watching something recently when the founding fathers came through, and when you look at the portraits of Washington and how he's displayed as a god, the president was once called eminence.
Yeah,
They thought
your
of themselves
eminence.
as monarchy. Or how about when the country was founded, we borrowed a lot of money off of France,
Yes.
and we never
And
paid that money. We never paid that money back.
We never paid it back.
Well, technically, our founding fathers said, we owe this money to the monarchy who helped us,
But
and
that-
now
but
you've
they were-
overthrown the monarchy.
So we owe you
we
nothing.
don't owe you anything. We owe the people you
American
chopped the heads
loopholes.
off.
Isn't that interesting that the country that doesn't believe in monarchy believes in paying
Back
back
the
a
monarchy.
But now that monarchy's gone, it doesn't want to give the money to the people.
And now
There
we
was a
have,
brief moment where they thought Washington should be installed as
Yeah,
an
as
American
president.
king.
Yes,
as an
correct.
American emperor.
correct. Like it was, I think it was like
We were still a little
going
shaky
to my
up front.
going to my fascination with history and American history. John Adams was the one who suggested the idea of calling him Your Majesty, the President of the United States, where George Washington looked at him and just went, Mr. President is fine.
So there's this concept that from the get-go that we knew we want everyone to be fair and equal, and that's just not true. That's not true. This is something.
Washington himself bought slave teeth.
Okay,
How-
hold
Well,
on.
hold
How
up.
can
and
you
he-
buy
and
something
here-
from a
and
slave?
and here's
You're
where
gonna walk up to a
political-
slave and say, "I'll give you $15," and they'll
for
say
your
no.
teeth, for your teeth. And here is where political accuracy comes into play
Versus political correctness.
Political correctness, and also like the myths that come with the people who created our country.
Because Washington
we like
a
to
demon?
think that.
No, Washington for his era went out of his way to try and compensate fellow humans for their teeth.
But this is the problem. Like, can you give a slave money, or are you giving the slave's owner money?
Or
'Cause I
does the
do
slave have a
not-
right to refuse your offer?
Right. Let's say no. I want to keep my teeth.
Right.
Is that even permitted?
Probably no.
Probably not.
And then he had a fancy pair of those were the slave teeth were for the actual machinations of chewing and such. But now when he would just be out in the world, he had wooden teeth.
Yeah.
So now we're the carpenters who made his wooden teeth apparati now better compensated than the random slave he walked into and said, "Let me get a molar."
Those are great looking
Teeth.
molars.
You
Those
have
are
a
great
great.
teeth.
Those the amazing.
Those
beautiful.
canines are beautiful. I will give you 75
You
cents.
I could tell you floss. I'll take your teeth.
Like, just think about that. But no one wants to talk about the fact that he had a mouthful of slave teeth.
Yeah.
The difference that
I
feel
grew up
that
with I
is-
grew up with the hippo, the teeth made of hippo.
Ah, so the other theme, yeah.
Yeah.
The difference, I think, between political correctness and political accuracy is the fact that one is no, I'm protecting my feelings, and the
Yes.
other is no, even though I care about my feelings and I care about your feelings, I want to really talk about
You can't lie about this.
We
I
can't
can't
lie
lie
about
about
what's fact.
what's fact and what's not fact. And even though I'm
that's
saying
dangerous,
even if
yeah.
I like the person that I'm talking about that did something
Yes.
wrong or that did something that's that's not okay to do.
Right.
I'm gonna say, even though I like this person and I like what they stand for, they still did something messed up.
There's the question: can I like someone who's done something bad?
Right.
Am I still allowed to like you, or do I have to now cancel you
Yeah.
because you've done something wrong?
Or is it? It's more a question of, is there a logical debate to be had between the lesser of two evils,
Yes.
or on some level, are
Is
you still
just
just voting
voting.
for evil?
Right.
Is it something you can actually parse out and say, I'm okay with this level of trespassing,
Yeah.
but the other side I find abhorrent and I just couldn't possibly?
Yes.
Is that now more or less where we've always found ourselves?
I feel
Where we
like
found ourselves the last election, where we found
Yeah,
ourselves
it's like
in the last 20 years of election.
Yeah.
going
it's
back
like,
to Gilgamesh.
Is it literally going back
Like-
to Gilgamesh? But it's literally going back to when we invented the wheel, honestly, with this whole electoral system. It's like we are choosing two evils. Do we want the one that makes us feel safe and be able to go back to sleep? Or are we choosing the one that we know that we actually need to be able to wake ourselves
moment.
up completely, so we know that this system that we have does not work?
Like
Right.
even
So we want, and then want to better ourselves as a country, as a government, so we know what is right from wrong, instead of choosing the lesser of two evils just because we feel that it would make us feel safe.
even looking at the most recent presidential election, there were a lot of folks who said
Good.
Trump is a monster.
But
He's an abomination,
but
but so's the other guy.
exactly.
So what's the difference ultimately?
Don't
Trump
vote for
is the
either.
abomination who doesn't really know well enough to hide it.
Right.
and will expose all of the evils that we actually get up to as
As a
nation,
country, yeah.
as a
Because he doesn't know better than to
governmental
shut up.
system.
Exactly.
Because he doesn't know better than to keep, to not say the quiet part out loud.
Or maybe
Or
he's
does
proud
he
of
know,
it.
Exactly, or does he know better enough than to just say it out loud in front of people than to hide it and then have them find out about it later on. And then have that be the question.
Or it's
Exactly.
just not things that he's ashamed of.
Exactly. that
American
too.
dominance is not something he's ashamed
Kind
of,
of.
while Democrats keep trying to pretend like we don't play world police.
Versus
Right.
Joe Biden, who tried to come into office as some sort of savior after writing the 94 crime bill.
Right.
Right.
After having a 40 to 50 year, we'll round that up,
Round
Yeah.
up. Mm.
career within governance that now had
Doesn't
nothing
work.
had nothing
He was
positive
the
to
vice
show.
president of a black man doesn't matter anymore.
That's what I'm
Exactly.
saying. That's what you write him
Exactly.
off as.
Exactly.
He must think I'm okay as a black person because he was the vice president of a black
But
man.
also-
Not that he
we
created
tr-
the current penal system
Right.
incarceration
Yeah.
issue we
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
And he allowed this to continue, and he allowed it to become a cottage industry worth billions.
But yeah, we're going to ignore that because he has both a woman and a woman of color on as his VP on the bill. So we're going to go with that
But the thing is, we have that same
over
problem.
the two white bread.
We have
Yeah.
that same, I have that same problem with Bernie when you look at his
Leave.
track record and you see him get arrested back in the day, and you're like, look what he stood for. He's also the same
He
person.
marched with Martin.
Right.
Martin
He's
with
also
Martin.
the same person who signed the 94 crime bill. How are these two men the same person?
How do you reconcile those two
Like
thoughts?
the two
Right.
evils.
Yeah.
They're the lesser of these two
You
evils.
did this, but you also did that. Why did you
Like
do that?
where was the thinking? Like what were you thinking
All
that
the
like
things,
if you did something this good, but then did something this bad, what was the alternative that you were facing if you didn't do the bad?
Right, but then there's so many staunch Bernie supporters that go, "That's not important," and I go, "But
Why is that important to you?
Right.
Why is marching with Martin more important than signing a bill that incarcerated more people of color than walking with Martin and Selma?
Yeah.
Yeah, and absolutely.
Like where is that differentiation? You're fighting to end segregation and the black
and Jim Crow.
and Jim Crow, but then you initiate
When you have power.
When you have power, you initiate a different kind of Jim Crow, a different kind of segregation
Yeah, I would say it's a
within
different
the
kind of
people of
slavery.
color, in
Yeah.
a different kind of slavery.
form of it.
Exactly, because literally
Because they're using you
we
as
use
labor.
we use you in prison as a form of labor.
Right.
So that is why it's like it. In all these years, like nothing has really changed.
It just looks different.
It just looks different. On paper, it sounds exactly the same.
And to be honest, it's more a case of the hucksters getting better with their hustle because they're able to hide it better.
Yeah.
It used to be you owned a chattel slave, and that was cut and dry. You bought a human, you own their kids, etc.
Right.
Now, how is that any different than the current state of just economics we have in this country? In the
And
West,
housing.
how is it not any different that the average human who's born into a certain economic strata finds it almost impossible to escape that?
Yeah.
You're born lower middle class, you die lower middle class.
Yeah.
You're born upper middle class. There's almost no mistake you can make that will
well, technically within
cause you to fall from upper middle class.
within reason.
There's so many safety nets for you now that what really is the economic justice.
Right.
Right.
But there's also this the lullabies we sing to ourselves to make us feel better. For example, I'm a Democrat, so I believe that in the rights of blacks. Though the Democratic Party believed in slavery.
Yeah.
They were the supporters of slavery, and it was the Republicans.
And people
And you can
forget
easily-
that it's the Republicans who were the ones who wanted
abolitionists.
the legislation for the freeing of slaves.
Right.
And people also
Lincoln
choose-
was a Republican.
Right.
Lincoln
Yeah.
was a Republican.
And most people tell
Folks-
themselves that Lincoln was a good
good
Republican,
Republican.
not the Democrats were the ones that were defending
the
slavery.
But you also face a situation right now where most of our major cities are left.
Yes.
Most of our major cities are governed entirely from the left.
Correct.
And most of our major cities have entirely
Ugh.
abysmal
Ugh,
homeless problems,
Jesus.
So how much does the
employment
left care
issues.
about such issues? Yeah.
How much does the left actually care about taking care of these issues, and how much have they gotten used to now?
And
Just
when you're
feeding
in-
off of the underclass's votes
And when you're
from
in
saying they will try to fix it.
And why is it that when the Democrats are in power, they're who are the ones promising better education, better jobs, better economic standards? Why is it that when the Republicans are in party, this shit actually gets done? But when you're in power, if it happens at a snail's pace that takes more than 4 years in office to get done, because you have the same party that would more or less get it done in some way fighting you every step of the way.
Right.
But it's also a fact of look at the largest areas of our country that are sadly falling victim to black on black crime.
Yeah.
They are usually run by black legislators.
Right.
Yeah.
They are usually run by left-wing legislators. Detroit, Chicago, Philadelphia, New York City, everything is run by a left-leaning
Black
governance.
affiliated.
Even if it's not, it's the race be just one way or the other. They are now running something in the left wing that is causing all of these issues.
Truth.
And you could say it's a problem of, in the case of homelessness, being maybe too generous to the homeless, so they tend to congregate in your states. But homelessness can be fixed. Homelessness
Yeah.
can be fixed for a nominal fee. It's something like
Mm-hmm.
$20 billion to get most of the homeless off the streets, and then we can talk about what that program would cost going forward.
Right.
But all of these places are run by lefties.
Yeah.
And all of the lefties swear they want to do something about homeless and the underprivileged.
But nothing
At least
ever
the
gets
right
done.
wingers are honest
That's
about
about it.
fuck the coal miners.
Yeah.
Fuck you if the only economic employment opportunity you have is Amazon or Walmart. That's just what you got.
It's a
And
job.
that's why when
They're at least being nakedly realistic about what they feel the world looks like, whereas the left is giving you the same damn options, except saying someday we may fix this. Someday, if we have enough votes, we have enough votes now.
And I can't
But
believe
someday,
I can't believe I actually am about to say this, but as Donald Trump said, what more do you have to lose if you vote for me?
Right.
What more do you have to lose as an African American? What more do you have to lose?
and that's
sadly the truth.
I think that's what we face now. Is
Exactly. What more does the society have to lose?
That's the theme: accuracy versus correctness. We're just being accurate, folks.
Yes.
Down the line.
Down
How
the
many
line.
times does Bernie need to run for the presidency
Jesus fuck.
and then just peter out?
And
You
sho-
may not
and
be
show
president
up,
right now,
and
sir.
show
but
up
you're
to
a,
the
you're a
inauguration
senator.
in mittens,
Yeah,
going to the post
Yeah.
office.
vibe check.
Best thing about this inauguration.
But truly,
Ridiculous.
you've been in the
Ridiculous.
machinery of governance too long to have affected the
Anything.
small amount of change you've affected.
Yeah.
You're in Vermont. I grant you, Vermont is not the most important of states, let's say. I'm sorry.
More or less.
We do have more, kind of prominent states that he could have potentially helped. But even in Vermont,
yeah.
it may be a lefty sort of dyed-in-the-wool safe haven, but what good are you doing, ultimately?
Yeah.
They're planting trees, they're cutting taxes, they're taking care of their homeless problem. I live in New York State. I live in New York City.
Rent
We've
is
had
ridiculous.
a homeless problem since I was born.
Rent is ridiculous.
The rest of the country
Say
is
that
now
one more
coming
time.
to
Rent
terms.
Rent is ridiculous.
Yes, it's been for at least 20 years.
No matter where you go, it's ridiculous.
But now,
and
just to-
Panorama did not help us at all with
Yeah,
that.
but just to get to my point, we've, since I was a child, been dealing with a homeless problem that now seems to have pervaded and spread to the rest of the country. It was understandable in New York. There's high competition, there's high demand for whatever we might have. But now you're just getting hundreds of thousands of homeless folks shifting themselves throughout the goddamn country, depending on who is offering the better dividends,
Correct.
whoever's taking care of them better. So they wind up in a place like California.
Yeah.
And they form a tent city someplace like Venice Beach because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
quite temperate.
I've seen
and
it.
they
it's
just
nice.
made-
I've seen it.
It's nice to live there, even if you don't have a home, and
It's
you can be
crazy.
taken care of, and they give charity, and you'll be provided for.
They feed you.
But now, what happens to
Eh.
all of the taxpayers who are in that area, who've now been descended on by hundreds of thousands of homeless, and they no longer want to live there? You can no longer afford these programs.
Correct.
It's not a state by state issue, because folks will move to a different state if the state is
Better.
kinder to them in their state. They will move somewhere that is giving them more dividends at the expense of leaving a, say, right-wing state free of homeless. Not because they're kind, just because they're not taking care of the homeless.
We also have to point out that being homeless has just been made illegal in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that too.
Thank you, Jeffrey Katzenberg.
Yes.
Yay, Katzenberg.
Katzenberg.
But we just want to point out these are the kind of topics and themes and the level of accuracy we're going to bring to our show
Yeah.
about all of the things that are going on. So we aim for accuracy over correctness. So,
Yeah.
So thanks for listening this week, everybody, and we'll listen to you. We'll be back next week.
Yeah.
And we'll have more high-tone topics to annoy you with. Brace yourself.
All right. Thanks, everybody, and stay safe.
Stay safe.
Bye-bye.